I see me. Ooh. Sophia's already here. Hello, Sophia. That was fast. Good going. Jumped right in there. Ian says, hello, everyone, or whenever they arrive. How are you doing, Sophia? Hey, a few more people have jumped in. Lacey says, hey, hey, I'm so glad I made it to the live. Welcome, Lacey. Ian says, please feel free to participate. Newbies also, please. Yes. We love getting conversations going. Sophia says, thank you. I'm excited that I did not forget again about the live. Well, that's fantastic. Aaron says, hello. Sophia says, how are you? Well, we've had a bit of a rough week. We lost our bunny. He suddenly just expired. Fortunately, Ian found him just before it happened, and all three of us, Ian, me, and my granddaughter, were all home when it took place. So we all were there with the bunny. We don't know exactly what happened. We have some suspicions that he chewed a screen and got some wire in his digestive tract, and that might have done it, and was unexpected to say the least. And it was sort of a weird day and sort of a bit of a weird week because of that.
It was very sad.
Deborah says, my first live, I'm so sorry about your bunny. Yeah, he was a pretty young bunny. I was really happy, though, that he actually came to visit me that night after we had buried him and I went to bed. He showed up and was just right there. And so that was very comforting. I think we have two magic bunnies now. The first bunny that came with my granddaughter after he passed, and now we have our second bunny, and they're both underneath the Japanese maple tree in the front garden. And I picked up some stepping stones with nice little sayings on them. One has got a butterfly on it, and it says, welcome. And the other one's got a hummingbird on it, and it says, love grows here. So we're going to mark their spots with those stones so that we can always know right where they are. But it is like death can happen so fast and unexpected, and that's kind of what happened. It was just bam, here we are. And now we have to deal with it. So it was definitely thought provoking, to say the least.
And our router died on the same day in an unrelated story.
Well, yeah, that was the ants that killed the router. The one out here, we had to go buy a new router yesterday so we could do our live.
It was a bug in the system.
Yes, a literal bug, several bugs. It was very weird. And it was a strange combination of things. Like that morning, a local cat got one of the crows that comes onto my yard and sort of started off with kind of like a weird note. And yeah, so it was an odd day. And we have some rain now, so we need it, which is good. We're not getting as much rain down here on the southern coast as I'm assuming they are up in Portland area and other parts of Oregon. It's a atmospheric river, so we know what that can mean. But it's a nice kind of little system down here. Not too windy and not super like pouring buckets like we've had in the past. And yeah, Sophia says, oh, I'm so sorry. It's not nice to lose a pet. No. And he was pretty young and very vibrant and really the best jumper and spinning, and his binkies were to die for, and he was just so adorable. So The cat is very confused. Our cat Bugsy, he didn't quite comprehend when we showed him the bunny, and he's been looking for the bunny ever since. And he keeps going to all of his places, and he's scratching on the floor. He's vocalizing like crazy. He's worried. He's worried about us. He's not sure what's happening. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting the emotional connection that even the cat had with the bunny and how much his loss has impacted our household. So, yeah, that's what life is, though. It's a series of unexpected events that you have to figure out how to respond to and what to do with. But we went on Friday, we went to a local spot out in the woods, and I met a new kind of fairy, which was quite surprising. Cuckoo Moon View says, hello, everybody, once again. Hi, Cuckoo. And I didn't get a good total look at it. I saw its disturbance that it had in the air. I mean, like I saw this gray, like rolling thing. I was looking at it, and I'm like, it looked like a very chubby, like a bumblebee kind of shape with four wings. It was just really moving fast. So I started following it and watching it, and then it got so close my eyes started crossing, so I had to close my eyes. I'm still not sure exactly all of its attributes or what exactly it looked like. I just saw its effect, I guess, on the airstream of what I was looking at, so that was kind of interesting. Lacey says, oh, how wonderful. Yeah, I was pretty tickled. And I've seen all kinds of fun stuff when I was looking at the sky. I saw these long streams of violet and silver just through the air, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. Although I know it wasn't physically there, I enjoyed it thoroughly. Beth says, hi, Siofra. Hi, Ian. Hello, everyone. Hi, Beth.
Hello.
Kat says, hello, all. Hi, Kat. Welcome. So, yeah, it's life is interesting. It's been a bit of a roller coaster of emotions up and down the last few days. But that is it, isn't it? You know, the texture of existence. It's not just one kind of feeling or emotion or experience. It's like all these different things that sort of weave together into a whole, and some of the parts of the tapestry are not that much fun, but then they add to the whole and give it contrast, I guess, would be one way of looking at it. So that you have that. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, nothing so boring as something that's smooth and texture. Anything else? That, I hate that in music. It has to have enough character, enough texture, keep me interested in listening to it for a while. Otherwise, I listen to it half a dozen times and I'm sick of it. Don't
Get
want to listen
bored.
anymore. Yeah.
Yep. We did some yard work. I know we haven't done any videos lately, but Ian's going into, he has a surgical procedure on Tuesday. So we're trying to get our household stuff done before then. And so, you know, we put in some soil and bark and stuff like that before the rains hit. We did that yesterday afternoon, so that was a lot of physical work. It was, yeah,
I've been meaning to get a video going, but it looks like now, unless I decide to do it tomorrow, it's going to have to wait till after my
recovery.
surgery and recovery. Yeah.
Going to be at least a week, so they say.
Well, a week before I stop draining.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not covered.
So Cuckoo says, I have a question for everyone. What to do if I would like no ghost of former people to have access to me or influence me? Only nature, spirits, other non-human life forms, and deities. How to do this. How to cut yourself off from ex-human spirits. Any specific incense or minerals or metals. I have a video called How to Ghost Proof Your House. I would recommend watching it because that will keep human spirits out of your face. It won't stop nature spirits or Yeah, it's not going to stop other types of spirits from entering in. You can, of course, do magical boundaries and have rules and so forth for them as well. But the main thing is to set up healthy boundaries and to be aware if some spirit tries to cross those boundaries, because you have the right to not let anyone into your space, period. I've had some living people that have intruded upon my space from time to time. And when I had told them they were no longer welcome here in that capacity, a former witch that we took classes from, who decided we were a danger for some reason and kept wanting to poke her nose in and take a look at us. And I just sort of set up, I don't know what to call it, my psychic alarm system. It's like I know her energy, and I kind of like program my barriers to alert me should that particular energy enter. And I had it on all the different planes. And she tried all of them. Well, except for physical, because I would have been able to see her. But she tried both the astral and the mental plane to try and see if she could sneak in without me noticing. But my personal alert system worked, and I always knew when she was there. And I just kept, say no, you can't come in. So having a strong sense of your own self and who you are and what is and what isn't okay for you is how you set those boundaries if you don't want influences to impact you. And if you know what those are, you can be specific about it. And you can, of course, use um, objects if you want to. Uh, you know, you can charge objects up, you can charge up stones and things like that in order to enforce your barrier. We have pieces of obsidian around the yard that are part of it. Um, I I cast a circle, not as much as I used to, but pretty frequently, and reinforce our.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to point out, the video on.
Yeah. And it's part of the whole learning process, because the more sensitive you become and the more aware you become of those kinds of energies, the more you need to do that kind of self work, and deciding what is and what isn't okay for you, and setting those boundaries is part of that process. And then practicing it so that you get better at it. And sometimes after you've done it for long enough, it can become so automatic. Something tries to intrude, you don't even notice that it's there, because you've rejected that so often in the past. It just happens, and it's just sort of background noise and nothing you need to actually even pay attention to anymore. So I think that is part of it, becoming self-defined and having healthy boundaries and practicing your magical abilities and so forth, and learning how to cast a circle, use the pentagram, or what other means that you might be familiar with that work for you.
I would add, in response to your question there, that one general good incense is sage, for just generally for cleansing out energy of all sorts.
Right. That's for like getting rid of negative energy. It's always a good idea to follow it up with a positive energy influence incense afterwards in order to fill the space with the energy you want. That's one of the things I go over in the ghost proofing your house.
Sage is very earth related to the earth energy, and so it's good for cleansing out all of them.
Oh yeah, so I have 4 sage plants that are now growing in my garden, and 2 of them are doing really well. We'll see about the other 2 as the year progresses. But I grew them from seed. I got the silver sage, and so I'm growing my own. And I talked to one of them that wasn't growing quite as well, and I said, hey, if you grow really, really good, I can like harvest you and share you with other people of a magical intent. Wouldn't you like that? So I'm trying to sow the seeds of, ooh, wouldn't it be fun if I got spread around a little bit? So we'll see. If I have a good harvest, might not be till next year. I'll actually offer it on my website. on my Etsy page. And then you guys can have some if you want, and whatever. Know that it's ethically sourced, and it was grown from seed by me in my garden with all my fairies and everything else. So it'll be extra special. I've already harvested a few of the leaves, and it's really wonderfully fragrant when I was cutting some of the stuff back to help it and whatnot. So Beth says, good luck on your procedure, Ian. All will be well.
Yeah. So I'm a little nervous because it's not like it's going to be much fun, but doctor's done a whole bunch of them.
Thousands.
So yeah, should be very good at it.
Yes. He's well known, and there's no real super bad press about him, so that's encouraging. Sundrop says, hey everyone. Hi Sundrop, welcome. Yeah. So hopefully that helps. If you're trying to not have anything to do with ancestors, I'm not sure what to say. I mean, I don't work with them, so I don't have any problem with them. I have nothing to do with them. So, but yeah. But I think what I said still would apply. If you're not open to receiving influence or information, then you won't. You'll be good. Cuckoo says, I am the type of creature that can be driven away by watermelon. I hate the taste and smell of this fruit. I don't know what it is about watermelon and me that has such an effect on me, but the power of watermelon is too powerful for me. I use jasmine, juniper, sandalwood, and cedar as incense, and I also have a special blend for the Nagas of Nepal. Cool. Sounds like you've got lots of good stuff there. Cedar is really good. I like that. And also juniper is wonderful. I was amazed. We bought some juniper wood and had no idea how fragrant that was. It makes a marvelous incense. We had it for a specific purpose for a project we were doing. One of the things it required was juniper.
Came out of New Mexico. It's pretty nice stuff just on its own.
Beth says, fairies and nature spirits are happy. I'm very protective in the backyard now. We have a lot of baby birds in the learning to eat. And we're low, so it's very happy to take care in magical. Cool. I'm curious about that four-winged little, it was about that big actually. So it's bigger than some that I've seen. Also had like the little sparks and whatnot going on too, but yeah, it's pretty cute. I think the fairies are happy with our yard too. And on that day that snow passed, I gifted 4 apples to the deer and any other spirits that might want them, and put them in front of the yard outside the gate. Some things have nibbled them, but so far the deer haven't eaten them. They haven't come by. They don't come by very much. I'll eat and fly low, so it's very happy. Baby birds, word perfect does not like me. Well, you got baby birds. I see that. You have lots of baby birds. It worked. It came through. And I know word perfect doesn't like you. Apparently it doesn't have like an autocorrect that works well.
Our birds have a mound under
Ah.
because we have a flock of blackbirds that keep spilling the bird seed on the ground. They kind of throw it on the ground when they go. They sure sing nice though. But then we've got a mole that keeps coming up out of the ground to eat the bird seed, and so he's managed to make actually quite a mound. I still have to take the shovel to it more and get the rest of it down. I'm having to actually take a shovel and take it away so I can get the mower over the top of it. It's gotten so big.
Lazy says, I keep leaving gifts. My garden looks better than it ever has, so I'm taking that as a good sign. I would take that as a good sign too. Eve says, "Yay, always great when I can catch you too. Hey everyone. Hi Eve. Welcome." Yeah, last weekend we had less people, maybe because it was a holiday, Memorial Weekend or something. But it looks like we already have our usual number, so cool. Anybody who's got some questions, feel free to ask away. That up there, so I can see what's going on. Lacey says, but I haven't seen anything. Maybe one day. Well, practice letting yourself look. And that's what I do. It's like, it's sort of like a muscle that you don't know needs to be exercised. And when you first try, you don't know if you're getting any results. But letting yourself, gazing and letting your eyes soften and trying not to see things in focus can help you to start to see the subtle energy changes and stuff that are going on around you. I mean, this thing that I saw on Friday, I mean, it so disturbed the atmosphere that it became notable.
Keep in mind too, anything like that that you're trying to learn, like clairvoyance, it all builds up over time. Just like your muscles build from exercising. So, the more you do it, the better you end up getting at it. And
Yeah,
it can be, it's, uh, yeah. Don't expect to necessarily get immediate results, but you consistent,
that's what,
and
yeah,
you get results.
exercising the
Yeah.
muscle you don't know that you have.
Yep.
Like you eventually it'll suddenly start to make sense. I mean, at this point, I can see color with my eyes open. I could always see it with my eyes closed, but it's been since I was little that I've been, when I was little, I could see color with my eyes open. But then not until like the last 5 years did that ability come back. All the stuff that happened in between that interfered with it and so forth sort of plugged me up, as it were. Expectations, fears, and anxieties, and whatnot. But also look for other signs, not just visual, because there's smell. And with me, with the fairy folk, the smells that they have are just wonderful and very distinctive and present. Like I smell lavender sometimes, sometimes other smells, peppermint or mint is one I often smell when I'm out in the woods, just wandering around. And then the sounds that they come with, like little bell tinkling noises or the sound of laughter in the distance, just the sense of laughter, a feeling that you can get. So you let your other senses assist when you're trying to work on that. Who says people, the human species in general, has disappointed me greatly. I know that I am one of its representatives, but this is not a reason for me to be proud. That's why I don't practice anything related to spiritism, ancestors, etc. I prefer animals than people. My ancestors left me only a mess and constantly bother me even after death. They are more human than during life. It's about character flaws.
Yeah, I have bad relatives, so I don't do any ancestor work.
And same
Yeah.
here. Absolutely. And I like nature better than people, and I like other forms of consciousness better than just human consciousness, like trees and stones and animals and so forth. So that's what we into. Lacey says, that's so interesting. I never thought of smells. I'm not giving up. I'm practicing every chance I get. Awesome. Bob says, hi, everyone. I usually stare at the white wall. I tried unfocusing in the yard this morning, didn't see anything, but got a little dizzy or felt like the ground was shifting. Need more practice. Well, that's a good sign. I think, um, yeah, I can't handle staring at a white wall. It has to have some color in it for me to be able to see things. Otherwise, I just have things flying around all the time, and I can't focus on the specific thing I'm trying to do. It's more like I'm in a bad acid trip and hallucinating. But hey, what works for, you know, everybody's got their way. Beth says, my girlfriend's grandmother came through while I was on the phone with her. and she was pissed. After an hour, I had to ask her to leave me alone. She zapped me when I was so tired. Me too. It's probably about the ancestors. I'm sorry, that's not fun. And, poop on her. Should leave you alone. Julia says, finally settles into my seat as I smile to everyone. Finally back home as of Saturday. Well, welcome back home. It's like that's one of the things about what we do is interacting with life, and life is more than people. People usually ruin a lot of stuff because they're so egocentric, selfish, mean, a lot of them, angry, loud, all sorts of things that interrupt and disrupt harmony and our ability to like tune into things. In your face, messy people. So yeah, that's why I'm a witch and a pagan and love nature and talk to trees and talk to rocks and sea fairies and all that stuff. And their opinion matters more to me than people. So yeah, there's that. It helps to maintain my equilibrium. I know who I am, and I'm happy with that. And I like the fact that I continue to have new experiences. It's not a stagnant thing. It's just a ever evolving and alive process, which I think is what it should be. If it becomes stagnant, then I'm in trouble. I'll have to reevaluate. But like I said, means life can get messy. Eve says I can connect to trees easily. It's harder for me to connect to stones or gems. Do you notice that as well?
I do, and
It's definitely easier to connect to trees because they're, for one, much more talkative and willing to communicate. They're closer to us energetically than stones are. When I was trying to like quiet my mind and relax, I would go to a large boulder and try to tune into the consciousness of the stone, and that would quiet me down right away because their thoughts are low. They're like there's like long pauses in between, and if I'm connecting to them, then I'm trying to match that energy, and that naturally slows me down. So yeah, but I have over the last few years started to get more information from stones. Like I saw the spirit of a stone for the first time, I think about 4 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago. It was a piece of blue kyanite. It appeared on at the side of my bed when I was going to sleep one night, and had this very distinctive shape, and it didn't change at all. And I thought, what is that? And I'm looking at it, and I realized that it was basically the shape of the stone that I had in my hand or under my pillow at the time. And I was like, oh, cool. So it happens, but it's not as easy. These are gossips. They love to share. When I need to know something that's going on ahead, if I'm on a walk in a forest or something like that, and I'm wanting to know what to expect up the trail, I put my hand on a tree and ask, and it'll actually visually show me in my mind what's coming, which can be very useful. I rather like that. Sophia says, I try to ask my spirit guides to show up to me. I'm trying to practice my muscle several times, but nothing appears to me. Just give it time. Cynthia says, thanking your kind heart. Well, thank you. You're welcome. That says, nature is where my heart resides, and most people are so programmed and stuck in the system, I must keep to my own awakened kind. Yeah, it can get confusing. Julia says that Beth can surely relate to that, hun. Oh, yeah. Cuckoo says, however, I have a much better relationship with nature spirits. Recently, I experienced a vision after offering absinthe to the spirits in a forest spring. A moth appeared above my bed. I instinctively waved my hand and it fell on the bed, but it was still alive. I felt sorry for it, I watched it try to fly away, and every movement of her wings caused her to tear herself apart and her insides to spill out. Ouch. Sophia says, "Do you ask the tree verbally?" Yeah, I ask everything. I believe that words have got power, and that by saying something out loud, we give it energy and motion and makes it more likely to happen. That's always the way I've worked, is using my words. Like when I have an encounter with a living animal, like when I met the octopus at the aquarium, I didn't think at it. I said it out loud, because it helps me to focus, and talked to it, even though there was a room full of people who probably thought I was crazy at the time, and said, "I've heard a lot about you and how beautiful you are, and I really would like to see all your suckers and your, you know, all your tentacles and stuff. And I've heard such good things about you," because it was taking a nap and it was just behind a rock, and all I could see was its closed eye and its breath moving. And it came out and it got in front of me and spread its tentacles out across the glass in the aquarium and showed me every single sucker. And I was like, wow, this is fantastic. Look at you. You're so gorgeous. And I never even considered how the people in the room, the other 30 or so, uh, how they would feel about that or what they would think of it. I think that it helps me to like be myself and to be in my space. And, it's like they get what they want out of it. If they just think I'm crazy, they can leave. But the octopus came out when I asked it to, so that should have meant something, right? But yeah, I think that speaking the things out loud is an important part of my process at any rate. Some people don't like to say things out loud in front of other people because they're shy or they're worried about being judged by people. And I'm glad I'm not in that phase where I worry at all in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, kind of freeing. Beth says Julia hearts. Cuckoo says, but they were colorful rainbow lights. When she reached the window, she turned into a woman in an Indian costume and told me to look out the window where I had walnut trees. Suddenly, I appeared next to one of them and started to float. At some point, I noticed that there were green sleeping snakes hidden in the trunk. Our human smell is also not very pleasant for some spirits, which is why incense is not only a gift for them, but a kind of our bath before contact with them. Well, that's one way of looking at it. But it is true that certain smells and energies are not comfortable for certain spirits, because it's kind of like taking a fish out of the water and then wanting to have a chat with it. Unless you supply it with some comparable water that its ability to survive is part of, then it's not going to really be talking to you. It's just going to be trying to get back to its space. And so when you're doing magic with specific spirits, understanding the nature of the spirit and where it lives and resides and what kind of energy it's comfortable with, and that sort of feeds it and is it's like its home, the more you can recreate that kind of energy in your space, the more welcoming you are to its needs and so forth, the more likely you are to have a positive encounter. Absolutely. I don't know if it's our actual human smell so much as our energy. So shifting our energy around can help. I've discovered that I actually have the ability to shift my energy if I need to. When I was doing paranormal investigations, I found a spirit that had died in a fire and didn't know she was dead, and she was sort of stuck in that time and wasn't aware of me at all. And I was able to modify my energy field until I found a frequency that she responded to, so then I could talk to her and tell her what happened and help her to leave. So, the more familiar you are with how to do that and changing your own energy and stuff like that, the more options you have available to you. Sundrop says, I've gotten better at not caring what strangers think or say to me or about me. Good. Most important person in my existence as far as it goes that's non-human is the universe itself, and how the universe responds to me. Sort of my litmus test as to whether I'm doing a good job or not. And I have that part inside of me that kind of shows me whether something I'm about to do is good for me or bad for me. It's just kind of nice that I know that it's there, and I can, when I need to, look at it and monitor it, and it gives me a very clear indication of whether that's a good thing to do or not, by how it reacts to it. Not sure how to describe that. Gaga says, how do curses work? Is it a type of karma or something going on? Curses work because the person who's cursed feeds the curse. Uh, some curses work because of circumstance. There was a land curse that was done here by a Native American woman when she was dying. Death curses are the strongest, I think. And she cursed the land when she was caught and assaulted and murdered by some white settlers on her wedding day. And I helped her cross over, and she gave me a feather to release the curse, to let the curse go back. So that's a different kind of a curse. That could be sort of karmic related. The ones that people do to each other are often ones that rebound back upon them and cause them, the one who does the cursing, more trouble than the one who's cursed.
A lot of it depends on the pantheon you're talking about too. If you're a Santero, a curse might be sending one of the spirits after you. It all depends on where they're coming from, you know.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Aaron says, I've been told by a few people that I can calm them down just by being there. What is that power called? Empathy. And just having good energy. It's like this sort of like what happens with spiritual masters and so forth, where animals are just attracted to them and just lay down at their feet. Similar, I think. You have a calming, soothing energy that people can experience. And being present and attentive is quite soothing to people. So,
You know, I'd like to add to the curse thing that that's a being a curse is just a definition of something intended to harm somebody. So there are so many different ways that can be done. If you're a tribal shaman, you might send an object into a person or another shaman or somebody you wanted to curse. Um, you know, the tribes of Africa and some other places, things like that would send, shamanically, would send spirits or objects into people or kernels of corn like that were charged up to harm a person or charged up and have a person. Another way to do it is you take kernels of corn or whatever, you charge them up place so that the person will step over them, and then the energy that kernel of corn enters them, and then it's meant to harm the body, that kind of thing. So curses is a very broad term that could generally indicate harming somebody by any one of a zillion different.
absolutely. But even with those curses, the person who's being cursed has got to accept the energy on some level, I think, in order for it to work. Cuckoo says everything that happens to us in life is a product of the karma we have developed. Fortunately, karma can be purified, and predators are in our life to force us to evolve. Well, karma can be good. I don't want to get rid of that. I like the good karma.
You call it purifying the karma, the burning up the karma.
Yeah, in India.
Burning up the seeds of.
Murky says, peace, peace. Peace back. Thank you. long as I'm happy with who I am. That would be my main criteria.
I'd like to see more. People are very aggressive, even in parking lots. Crazy.
Murky says, love to hear from you again. Well, we're here every Sunday. At least, at the moment. Hmm. So we're ready for more conversational topics. Having a deja vu. I
Are you?
am. Lacey Long says, I always think of 1,000 questions and then I get here and go blank.
I'm that way with things that I want to buy at the store. I always I think of all these things. Oh, we should get this when we go to Buy Mart. We should get that when we go to Buy Mart. Then we go to Buy Mart. It's like, I can't think of any of them. Then I get home. Oh, yeah, that's what we should have bought at Buy Mart. You know?
That was just yesterday.
Yep.
Like, oh, that's what we were thinking. Okay. Beth says, that's how it works. And Lacey says, maybe a list. Yeah, I do have lists from time to time. I got into the habit of having people, write it down on the fridge. We got one of those boards, eraser boards.
Hey, well, we're still kind of sans the subject here. I don't know how many people. Gerald Gardner is kind of considered as the father of modern witchcraft. He had a lot to do, but he wrote an old book, and one of the interesting. I always thought it was an interesting idea, but I never tried following up on it. Where the witch group that he put in the book wanted somebody to remember something that they couldn't forget, so they made a dummy of the person and baptized it with his name and everything. Then they sawed off the top of his head and symbolically wrote it on the inside of the head, writing it on the brain of the individual symbolically. Always thought that was an interesting notion.
That's pretty interesting. But yes, I take a picture of the list if I'm going to go shopping. Everybody says, "Oh, we need to get this." I'm like, write it on the list. Do not tell me I'm not going to.
You don't want to write it in your.
I don't want to have to be the depositor of all lists in my head. I have other things I'd like to think about. Thunderup says, "Why is it that some entities are transparent and some are shadow black?" I don't know. They're made out of different things, or they're vibrating at a different frequency, or it's how we perceive them. Yaga says, "Do you believe in dimensions? If so, how many are there?" Well, I mean, we live in, our dimensions, the 3 dimensions plus time being the 4th dimension, as far as that goes. I believe in other planes of existence and other energy spheres, planetary spheres, and all this other stuff. So there's an infinite number of potential things like that are out there. I don't have a number of dimensions that I'm committed to. Neither is quantum physics. They keep changing their mind.
That's true. You keep changing.
Yeah, that's because hopefully they learn more. Sophia says, how successfully astral project for people who have not the ability automatically? I don't know. There's some books that are out there about it, and some people swear by them, and they work for some people. It's like everything else. You got to find the right trick that works for you. Being afraid is one of the things, and I recommend mental travel rather than astral travel anyway, because it's safer.
Yeah, I
And if
agree.
you get used to mental travel, at some point you might also do astral travel, but then you'll know what you're going to be expecting.
Mental travel is also naturally a little easier too.
Yeah, because you're using your imagination to go somewhere in your mind, and you're actually affecting that. That's one of the reasons I do the Reiki distance healing and so forth. And things that happen in my imagination can have a real physical effect on someone else's body or how they're feeling, their energy, and everything else. So I know that there is a potential conduit of exchange in that realm. And when I did distance healings, that's what I started to do, was with the mental sphere. So Murky says, I have a question. How can I guide someone into and through a spiritual experience? For example, assisting them in their first out of body experience. Very cautiously, because you may be doing something, if you succeed, that they're not ready for. And we don't always know for sure what it is that other people need and how they're going to react to it. Kind of like giving drugs to a random person, not knowing anything about them, and them not knowing for sure what they're agreeing to.
I'm not much for talking to David. Quick recap that experience boxes.
Yeah, we had a friend of ours wanted to have an initiation kind of thing, a spiritual experience. And Ian wrote a very basic kind of, I mean, it was, to me, it was basically, okay, we're going to go here, call on your guides and the powers that be and so forth, draw a imaginary line in the sand, and then you step over that line, and when you step over that line, you're committing to seeing the truth and opening yourself up to the truth. A good assumption, good description kind of thing.
Yeah, just letting in, open yourself up to seeing the magical realm. And
right. And it
stuff,
seemed
yeah.
like a very basic thing. And when they went and they did it, his reaction to it was extreme. Talking like hot sweats, tearing off his clothes, panicking, freaking out. So it sort of taught us that, I mean, even when something seems pretty basic to us, that doesn't mean it's going to be basic to somebody else. And he is still actually on that path. He's sort of come back around to it after that freak out, and he's doing his own spiritual experiences now. But yeah, it's a
Yeah, I thought it was very benign, but it turned out because of multiple circumstances, such as where he was in life, the fact that we were doing it in a very a powerful power spot, actually, that added to the boost, I think, and yeah, it was a miscalculation. It's really hard to tell. Try to judge that for somebody else,
well,
I
right. And
wouldn't.
we also had we also discovered that our idea of what is powerful and someone else's experience of something we've done are two different things. We had a friend who was in danger physically. Someone was stalking him, had a gun kind of thing, and he asked us to do magical protection. And so we made an amulet and charged it up really strongly for physical protection, because that's something that requires a big boost. And we gave it to him, and he couldn't wear it because it was so intense. When he put it on, he had an adverse reaction to it, which we didn't even think about, because
Made
like,
him ill, yeah.
yeah, it's just like, um, we're used to this particular level of energy, but he had never encountered it for in reality, so it was quite intense. So what we had him do was to wear it for a few minutes at a time and slowly adapt to the energy. And good news, he never did get shot. So
But yeah, I'd say it's that's something that you need to be very careful about. Certainly, the last thing you ever want to do for your own karma is to harm somebody on their spiritual pathway. To harm their progress on their spiritual pathway seems to be like one of the worst things you can do.
yeah, and so just be cautious and remember free will. If you might think this would be a great experience for them, it might not. So that's just sort of So Cuckoo says, I wonder what the world would be like without humans in their corporeal form. For some reason, the human form is needed. Maybe to unlearn attachment to it. I don't know. But I remember a time when we didn't have bodies and things were definitely different. Beth says, I wish I knew I was born with the abilities, too many to count. Global Student says the spoken word for those who follow the Bible would be the most ancient magic or spell. Well, maybe, but I don't follow the Bible, and it's still a very powerful thing for me. Cuckoo says the Bible and the beings behind it are not positive. The Bible contains, for example, descriptions of how to make human sacrifices, etc. The word love is just a lure. Yeah, well, that's kind of our take on that. But everybody sees things differently. And as long as you're using whatever it is you're doing or following for positive benefit for yourself, others, then more power to you, right? SL says, hi all. Hi, SL. Aga says, you said spirits can't hurt you unless you allow them to. I guess that's why they try to look scary, to let fear get into the mind, and you giving them control that way, I guess. Yeah, actually, that is definitely one of the reasons. And some spirits are just joking around and aren't really serious about it, but they still think it's funny when we're startled. And then there's the human. Um, well, if you're startled, you're going to have an instantaneous reaction of fear. It's just sort of normal, but you don't have to maintain it and stay there. And knowing they can't hurt you helps a lot. Sophia says, there are no books about mental travel, not much information about it. Maybe it's a good subject for a video for you to make because there is a lack of information about it out there. I'll look through.
Yeah, I guess we could do it. Barden writes about the mental travel, and if you look at stuff on astral travel and you figure 90% of it, what people think is astral travel, is actually mental travel in most cases. But yeah, one of the big differences is in mental travel you don't have the emotional connection. When you're really astral traveling in your astral body, that's your emotional body, so you're out there and you might get disturbed and upset by things that when you're out there mental traveling you can observe them and not be drawn into the
More
emotional
distance.
aspect. Yeah, you more like an observer to a lot of things rather than, so it can help with things that might be emotionally intense and things like that to mental travel too.
Yeah, that's one of the things that helps with that actually a lot because it's more an intellectual in the sense and not as much
Basically,
of a.
just know that you've got a mental body in addition to an astral body, and the mental body is timeless and spaceless. Get out and travel in it.
Beth says, we have a young schizophrenic related to my daughter's husband. I can tell he needs help. I've contemplated doing Reiki on him, but intuitively it's uncharted territory for me and I have to tap in. Any advice?
I wouldn't think Reiki would be a problem myself.
I agree. Reiki is sort of an intelligent healing energy, and if the subject doesn't want it, it won't work. Um, and it can help in unexpected ways. There's been certainly stories out there about the positive effects of Reiki on a condition. Not a guarantee for sure. And then, follow your instincts. If you're
Yeah,
doing it, if you're doing distance Reiki and you have their permission, I think you need to have someone's permission to do healing.
yeah. Make sure you're doing the Reiki, use the Reiki energy externally and not getting your own energy mixed in. That
Right, because you certainly
let
don't,
it flow through.
right, you certainly don't need to like pull that all in.
Yeah, the problem with if you use your own energy for healing, you can accidentally create a vacuum in yourself and draw in some of the patient negative qualities. Not aware of that.
And Beth adds, something tells me to leave it be and he is off his meds. Well,
Uh,
if you think you should leave it be, follow your own instincts.
yes.
That would be my
Yeah.
advice
Yeah.
for
Follow
sure.
your instincts for sure.
SL says, I would suggest getting his consent first, Beth. Yeah, which we said. Definitely. Gaga says, is the pineal gland seeing into the spirit world? I don't know. I think it's a theory. I don't know if it's true. People like to try and make sense out of things and make them like a hard and fast sort of something or other that they can relate to. And I have no idea what my pineal gland is up to and if it's still there and what it's doing, if it's open, if it's hard like a rock, but I still have abilities, so, you know.
Yeah, you have to watch out sometimes too because, like Kundalini describes structures in the body like chakras and things like that, but it's not to be supposed that those exist in any physical form in the body. That was all this.
Yeah. So in Murky says, I have another question. How do I properly challenge another human on their spiritual development before I begin to teach them anything which could be used in an offensive manner? Well, see if you can throw them off their game and see how they react. When I applied for membership in the largest and first uh, witchcraft, Wicca, whatever organization, and I was in communication with the people that, because I don't have anyone here in person that I could interact with. One of the things that they did when they were writing to me was confrontational, and I knew that's exactly what they were doing, and so I responded sensibly to the confrontation, which, I got approved, but then I never followed through because other things happened, and I'm like, okay, fine. But um, and seeing how they behave and how they act, and you could give them a simple exercise and see if they follow through on it. That's another thing to do. And know that even if you know some really amazing and wonderful stuff, they may not be interested or willing or ready to hear it. And yeah, it would be certainly a potential waste of your time and energy to share stuff with them if they're not in the right frame. But it's one of those things, it's like intuitive and a risk. Whenever you teach anybody anything, you are taking a certain level of risk that they will then pervert what you're sharing with them and be a bad actor when it comes to magic. So I usually look at if this is freely available information everywhere else, then them hearing it just from me, it's not like they would never have heard it before. And then people are responsible for their own actions and how they behave and what they do with the information that they have. You're not necessarily the person who's responsible for what they do with it. It depends on your own internal dialogue with yourself and what narrative you've told yourself about what your level of responsibility might be. Like the woman who taught us a couple of classes, which is nothing, and they were nothing new to us at all, decided that her teaching us anything at all made her now responsible for our actions for the rest of time. I thought was absurd. So, that says, I saw him cross over in a dream. I want him to know that he's wanted and we care. Well, you can do that kind of in the Akasha, in the spirit realm, and talk to his higher self and let him know there and have a conversation. I've done that a few times where you sort of go to your higher self and then you call his higher self to you and you have a heart to heart, and it will get down eventually to more of the physical or mental realm, and on some level at least he will know that you care. And I did that with a friend of mine who was having a psychotic break because I couldn't reach her any other way, and then lost contact with her for months and wasn't sure if she had killed herself because that was her plan at the time, and then found out she had signed herself into a mental health facility and had gotten help and she's fine. She's still not like, you know, completely there, but in my opinion, but she is still here, so it's good. Lacey says, I've heard Ian talk about Barden in the past. Can you tell us about this person? So Ian is responding to that. Franz Barden, Hermetic Magician. I made a video, and there is a couple of videos just about Barden.
Yeah,
You can look in our list of Ian's videos and you'll find it.
yeah, I wanted to type it up so you know how it's spelled, but he was, yeah, there's a lot to say about him, so I'd probably recommend watching the video. But he was a very impressive Hermetic magician who lived in. He have a lot of records of his life, and records from students. So there's a lot of real information on him and was.
Right, he's not like one of the ancient magicians from the 3rd century BC or something, where all you have is speculation from other people, pretty much. So that's helpful. Cuckoo says, Gaga, we usually only see what our karmic vision allows us to see. Gaga says, where do you go if you don't come back down here? I guess that depends on what you've done, and you can end up not in the human realm at all, like stuck in a planetary sphere with other kinds of spirits. You could move beyond the human or beyond the reincarnation thing altogether and translate up into a slightly higher vibrational rate, in which case you can't reincarnate.
Yeah, generally though, everybody stays more or less in the zone girdling the earth, but you retire in higher spheres more and more. Barton describes them as more, well, there's like more dense and less dense. There's less dense areas that more highly developed spirits reside in.
That's where, like, the spirit that I channeled, she she was from that sphere, and then there was another one that was from a sphere above her that I managed to channel a couple times, which was very strange feeling sensation wise in my head. I felt like I was going out of my mind. Lacey says perfect. Beth says thank you, Siofra. I can do that. Sophia says, what do you mean by hermetic?
Well, basically, that's the term he used, but basically, he was a magician. He did other types of magic also, but as compared to ritual magic, where you have different rituals to accomplish various things, his hermetic magic, his first book was entitled Initiation into Hermetics, and it's basically includes nature magic and things like that. Basically, doing magic with like magic mirrors and balancing the elements within yourself and learning to control the elements, things like that. Um, yeah, dealing with elementals, contacting your spirit guardian, various types of magic like that. So it's I guess it's probably my best description. You could look it up on Wikipedia or something for hermetic, but generally, yeah, call it general magic without being any form of religious or bias. Is totally non-denominational, non-religious, without any particular aspects of that to it. So it's all very practical.
Violet says, hi guys, I did not mean to be late. Hope all is well with you both. Well, yeah, we lost our bunny rabbit, but we talked about that at the beginning, and we're dealing. Other than that, though, we're doing pretty well. Murky says, I have another question. How reprehensible is hijacking tarot readings? I asked for consent beforehand, but I've noticed that just giving a video attention begins to alter the reading. I don't know. I mean, not sure exactly what that
Yeah,
means.
we're not quite sure what hijacking tarot readings is, so you might have to explain that a little bit.
Global student says, I've heard addressing yourself from your higher self in spoken word and replying, yes, sir, thank you, sir, that it reinforces a higher discipline of self respect. Okay. I've not heard that, but Murky says, I feel like an elephant in a room full of porcelain.
I feel like that sometimes.
You think you're going to like stomp all over us and break our feelings? Well, we'll be fine. I don't know about anybody else. Yaga says, I heard goblins is a bad elemental to run into. I don't know. I think it depends on your circumstances and how you treat them and what's happening. I've never had a bad encounter with a goblin. I'm not sure if I've had an encounter with a goblin, though. I've had gnomes and so forth. I don't think the goblins are actually considered elementals. Gnomes are earth elementals. And they're not the same as goblins. Although they can look pretty craggly. And they have some very interesting facial hair and lots of wrinkles and funny shaped, different shaped noses and stuff. And and they're quite unique looking. They showed themselves to me one night very distinctly. And yeah, I like the gnomes. Sundrop says, are you familiar with Lugawoo? Experience them? I have no idea. What's a Lugawoo? Beth is laughing. We made Beth laugh, all right. We've done our job today. SL says, I'm so sorry about snow. Yeah, we are too. It was so full of hops and leaps and spins. He actually jumped 10 feet from the middle of the living room onto the couch in one leap, just poof, all the way to the end of the couch. He was spectacular.
Yeah, he would jump up on my lap and then he would back in beside me and sneak in beside my left leg there so I could sit beside there where I could pet him, and I thought that was pretty special.
He really liked those pets. He really liked Ian. He was his person. So, yeah. Sundrop says Lagawall. Well, I still don't know what it is. And to tell me what it is just a word with a bunch of letters that mean nothing to me. A description would be good. Like what culture, what locality, what are the attributes, what does it look like? I don't know. So I'm thinking the answer is probably no. Yeah. Probably not. Unless it just failed to introduce itself to me completely and I met it and didn't know what it was, which could happen. Not everybody tells me what they are. Lacey says, how sweet. Yeah. And Murky says, in short, I've noticed when watching live streams of people who claim to be mediums or channels for the spirit and use cards with arcana motifs to interpret, it become influenced just by my attention. Interesting. So, I guess that means that they were doing it just for you. If it got influenced just by your attention, they maybe are a medium and so forth. Sundrop says, I had to Google it to get the spelling and description. Beth says, love me some gnomes. Yeah, I love me some gnomes too. Estelle says, Siofra, have you had any recent fairy experiences? Yes, on Friday. I saw a new kind of fairy, but I didn't get to see exactly what it was. It didn't come in clear enough. But it was like a movement in the air. It just started like doing this kind of moving kind of a thing. And it was about like yay big. And it was made me think of a fat bumblebee and had 4 wings. And it was just like going around all over. I was watching it and following it. And then it flew up because I was trying to get a closer look at it. Maybe it noticed, but then it got so close, my eyes crossed, so I couldn't see at that point. And I'm sure it thought that was hysterical. I probably really made it stay. I crossed her eyes, made her look funny. So yeah, very recently, which I thought was kind of cool. I rather enjoyed that. And I have no idea exactly what kind of a fae it was. I haven't tried looking it up to see if someone has a description of it or not, but it seemed to be happy. I mean, it was very energetic and you know, ball of joy kind of thing. It was pretty cute. Dobbs says, my family and I were discussing the differences between gnomes and dwarves. Still not sure. I've heard that gnomes are benevolent to humans, understanding that we oftentimes have difficult lives here as mortals. Yeah, I don't know either. Um, always, you know, it's like human definitions of their world. I try to not get too involved in, but because, you know, we're judgmental and critical and often stupid, and we jump to conclusions that are wrong, and then we think that we're right, and we just keep rolling with it. Like, try not to do that as much as possible. Julia says, sorry to have been so silent. My cat came up on the keyboard tray and laid down, taking a nap with his head on my chest. Very unusual. He missed me bad while I was in the hospital. Oh, yeah. Cats are sometimes, they really need your complete, total, and full attention. My cat will make me put down the mouse and stop using the computer because it wants some actual attention. Murky says the problem is that they're doing readings for other people, and after a few seconds of me watching the stream, they freeze up physically or the cards just start flying. I should probably stop doing it. Well, it's up to you, I guess. Have you told them that's what you're up to? And how do they feel? Uku says recently I came across on YouTube with description of gnomes called red hats, the color of which comes from the human blood that the headgear soaks in after killing a person. Yeah, I've heard of red hats, and I don't know if they are real or not either. Yaga says, can spirits hack into electronics? Yeah, probably. Uku says these are remnants of church activities, or is there any truth in these stories? Yeah, I don't know. I think they're probably remnants because they demonized all of the little people, and fear mongering and superstition was huge during the early days of the church. And Ireland, of course, was filled with all kinds of little people, and so they had a lot of things they had to like make sure they corrected when they got there.
Barton tells you how to go about having a positive working experience with all the elementals, including the gnomes, the sylphs, so on.
SL says, cool. Yes, with the Fae. It was pretty cool. I liked it. Global student says, I have trouble determining what's around here. I assume they can take whatever shape they want. Well, yeah, and that's tricky too. When I met the forest troll, when he noticed me being able to see him, he started morphing into other shapes to make me more comfortable, like making himself smaller because he was huge.
But if you're talking like an elemental, like the gnomes, they all look the same and similar. Same with the sylphs and things. They'll have their, well, of course, their.
Right. The elementals will have some pretty specific kinds of shapes, but other spirits, since they don't have any bodies, they can change their shape to either make you comfortable or uncomfortable depending on how they're feeling and what you're doing, I guess. Sundrup says, Loops skipped my comment. Oops. Skipped my comment. I'm not seeing your comment. The last comment I got from you was Lagawal, and then you had to Google it to get the spelling and description. And I have no other comments. So
Yeah, there was supposed to be more that came through. That was it.
try again.
Yeah.
Gecko says the secret teachings of all ages talk about elementals.
Yeah, it's actually not bad information that's in there on it.
That's Manly Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Julia says, I always take the stories about the fair folk with a grain of salt concerning their hostility. I feel like any other entity, some are nicer than others, most have shades of positive and negative. Yeah. And me too. It's like if you read about a specific being in a book and you decided that whatever you read must be true and then you met the being, you've already predetermined the encounter that you're going to have with it because your assumptions about what the being is and what it's going to do has been colored by that. And so being able to not do that, I think, is very important. Otherwise, how can we ever meet other beings on a fair field, where they can tell us what they are? So then we have better information and usually more positive experiences because, like that human spirit we met north of us, that thing was very powerful and had nothing but negative encounters with people until we came along. And so, it was predisposed to be angry when we met it and defensive and had lots of teeth and lots of growling and so forth. And because I'm me and I accepted it for whatever state it was in and respected its space, I was able then to communicate with it and figure out what was going on and help it get out because it was stuck. And that's what it needed. It needed to get out of the house where it was. And it had never encountered somebody who did that. So I was a new experience for that spirit, and he certainly was a new experience for me. I mean, that was a pretty interesting encounter. So I always try to bring that to the table. Alexa says hi, all. Hi, Alexandra. Murky says, I have a question concerning my previous comments. How can I establish boundaries of my aura or lessen its strength so its presence isn't as felt? Now, that is a tricky thing. I was told by an acupuncturist that I had the largest aura he'd ever encountered, but he praised me for my ability to make it comfortable enough that it didn't bother other people, and I don't know exactly how I did that. You have to be true to yourself, but being accepting and intuitively interested in what other people are doing helps to kind of soften up that energetic barrier. And you will find people who won't like you because you're actually having boundaries, because they're people that like to use people and they don't like people with boundaries because they are harder to manipulate. So, you know, sometimes if they're uncomfortable, that's a sign you should stay away from them. Maybe your boundaries are trying to like push them away, get away from me. They don't like you. Global student said, good point on a fair field. Bob says, and well, what kinds of humans are they being hostile to? Maybe the stupid, ignorant, rude ones? Well, yeah, the ones that are yelling and screaming at them and throwing water and books at them and calling them names. And yeah, Sundrop says, Lugaroo fly at night, then turn to birds and remove their skin and go about causing harm. I have no clue. Not something I'm familiar with. SL retracted a message. Cuckoo says, it's strange. I see some white streaks like smoke running across the floor of my room. Am I sick or do I have guests? You might have guests. Or you might be sick. It depends. Do you have a fever? I guess I would check. But visual changes like that, I see a lot of, you know, small, dark energy things flying around my house just before I'm going to bed. When the sun goes down, my eyesight shifts into second sight, I guess, a lot. It's pretty much automatic. So I also see sparks and things moving in the air. I tend to ignore them because it's not something I'm currently working with or whatever. They're just sort of passing through. It's kind of like, a flock of birds or a swarm of insects or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's trying to get your attention. It's just that you have noticed them. And so, I don't worry about it and then I go to bed. That is what I do. Um, Julia says, oh, so true, Siofra. Our energy and perceptions and expectations tend to be very influential towards the perceptions of such encounters. Yes, so much so. So much more so, considering the fact that, they're not physical, so we can really affect them. SL says, does, I think, Barden teach you ways of how to work with elementals?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. To put it, I'll encapsulate it. You work your way up in the book. This is near the back part of the book. I don't know, chapter 7 or 8 or something like that. But you get to the point where you can accomplish mental and astral travel. The way to visit, for example, the gnomes would be you take yourself out of your body with mental travel, then sink straight down into the earth until you're surrounded by the earth element, and it's like spans the entire universe around you. He has you imagine yourself with a little lamp that lights things up, and then you do that multiple times until you can see the gnomes running around and doing their thing, and then you just keep visiting them until you get their attention and they come up. And you're not supposed to talk to them first. You're supposed to wait till they come over, talk to you, and then you talk to them and make conversations, go with them. And he goes as far in his second book. He lists about 12 or 15, somewhere thereabouts. I'd have to count them. Some gnomes that he worked with in particular, their names, their seals, what they do, what their particular abilities and things are, what they're in charge of under the ground, and how to go about dealing with them and all that. But it presupposes that you worked your way up so that you have the ability to mental travel and visit them in that fashion.
So Gaga says your subconscious mind, I heard, is what shapes your reality. So you might find what you're looking for, if it's real or not, just because of your belief. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
true. Your belief can cause
Which
all
is
kinds of, you can
one
make
of the
thought
reasons.
forms by
Yeah,
accident. And
one of the
yeah,
reasons for what we call shadow work is to become acquainted with what's in your subconscious and work through it. And not everybody is aware of what's going on in their own subconscious, I understand. Uh, People in my family tend to hear what's going on in their subconscious. It's sort of like a conversation that's going on in the background, and sometimes I find it pretty interesting and hysterically funny in some cases. But the more you can work with that and clear out those past external influences and internal things that you've absorbed as part of your reality, the more likely you will be able to be to actually see things for what they are as they want to present themselves to be, instead of what you figure. One of the reasons with the paranormal investigations I thought was pretty interesting, knowing that, what really surprised me is that not a single one of them happened the way I expected it to, which I considered a huge plus. Because if it had been just my subconscious, dictating what was going on, things would have happened a lot differently, and I never would have been so incredibly surprised.
well, yeah, that's one of the things that's always seems to me that it's a good sign when if you want to tell if something is real or not. If it surprises you in different ways, it seems like if it just follows your expectations, then maybe you need to think about
Where those come from.
yeah,
If it's just affirming your assumptions about reality, it's probably just you.
yeah, yeah. But real contact will always have a certain amount of shock feeling or unexpected feeling because you're not dealing with something that's totally predictable if you're actually dealing with a separate entity.
Also makes you a lot more present in the moment,
Yeah.
when it's something real standing in front of you. So yeah. Beth says boundary breakers need not apply. All year long, I keep a window open so anything can leave that accidentally came in here. That's one way.
Yeah, I hear tell. I never met this person, but I heard tell of a person who always left all their cupboards open and things because they didn't want to possibly close the door on any opportunity.
It seemed a little extreme.
Yes. I just thought I'd mention that in passing.
Yes. Oh no, something might want to enter. Let me open up all my doors and windows and cupboards and drawers and yeah, okay. A little bit over the top. Global student says I can sense when things have changed in the larger consciousness of people. It's almost a hesitant air. Yeah. E. Murky says I have another question. Do you have any tips or tricks in performing shadow work? Well, I've done a lot of videos on shadow work, so I would recommend watching some of them. Go to the community page, and then there is a part that's called, I always have to think about what it's called,
I don't know,
playlists.
so I can't help.
Playlists.
Oh, playlists.
Yes.
Okay.
And under playlists, there's a group called Shadow Work, and you can go to the Shadow Work playlist and you can look through the descriptions and so forth of the videos. There's a lot of them because it's an important subject. And I talk about boundaries and stuff like that in that too, I think. So I would recommend that. Gaga says, is there any good books on the subconscious mind? Well, there's a lot of psychologists who think they've got it all figured out.
But I'm aware of myself.
SL says, oh, cool. Thank you, Ian. Sundrop says, what's the best way to store a selenite wand? Not in water. And since it's a fragile stone, if you have it wrapped in something soft when you're not using it, then that's fine. It doesn't have to be, though. You can wrap it in silk or you can wrap it in a soft cloth.
Yeah, just keep in mind that it is soft, so it'll scratch easily. You can easily scratch it with a fingernail and things usually. Yeah.
Cuckoo says, yes, I have a fever of 37.5 due to allergies. Can you look that up and see how much that is? Allergy season has started. I'm facing the worst 2 weeks of the year, but it doesn't change the fact that the warmer I am, more spirits want to warm up next to me. Well, I think when I'm sick, my ability to control my abilities is weakened, and I have a tendency to have a lot more experiences. So I actually have a stone that Ian charged up for me.
That's 99.5.
Okay. That blocks all external influences. So when I'm sick, I often take that out of its silk pouch to stop things from bothering me so that I can get actual rest. Because not being in control of your abilities when you have the kind I have is not good. You don't want that. Oh, Alexa says, excuse me, Alexandra says, do you think a person with supernatural abilities that they cannot control, telekinesis, influencing other people under emotional state, should undergo some kind of training?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what I do.
Yep.
I do believe that that's important in order to learn how to control your abilities, being able to turn them off as well as on. You know, if you can't figure out the on and off switch, and then it becomes a disability, not a gift. And then it's just something that tortures you and torments you and makes your brain not work right and confuses you and all this other stuff. You have to be able to be grounded in this reality as well as being able to go and explore other realms for your development. That says they're really good videos Siofra has out. Thank you. Yuku says, Gaga, try with Jung's books. Yeah.
If that's true, that would be some kind.
Well, he certainly goes into synchronicities and the importance of dreams and the subconscious and communicating with it and so forth. And yeah, he has a lot of interesting ideas on the subject.
Not something I know anything more about than just general knowledge.
I lived with a Jungian analyst.
I'm sorry.
I know, I was sorry too. That was torment. I had to have a dream journal. I had to write everything down. Everything had to be consequential. No, there were no insignificant circumstances. Everything had meaning. And I pointed out one time, maybe if I stubbed my toe, the meaning was look where you're walking and pay attention to your feet. It would be the meaning. Alexandra says, thank you. Can we train ourselves? Yeah. A lot of the videos we have can help you train yourself. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And that's what, sorry to keep banging on Barden this live. That's what his are, self-training books, basically.
SL says, can I ask you guys, I feel like before I started on this path, I had more supernatural experiences than I do now when I started on this path. I'm just wondering, why is that? I do feel like my abilities are increasing, but I just don't have as many random experiences. Yes, there is a reason. You're becoming more balanced. And this is a normal progression.
A lot of times, sorry, just a brief interjection. A lot of times abilities come from being unbalanced and they're actually a symptom of a...
Which is what I was going to say.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's normal. And you're balancing yourself out. And that's the way to do it. So, E. Murky says, just wanted to ask the question, Alexandra, since I have trouble with stopping myself from speaking or manifesting events or items into my life. And Stanislaw Groff says cuckoo, whatever that means. Okay. Subconscious. Global Student says, seeing a future catastrophe can be traumatizing then when it happens and then the post-trauma. Well, yeah, it's certainly not fun. I don't like it. But it is sometimes a good thing to warn you. Julia says, look at where you're walking, laughing so hard, wipes tears. Yeah. Okay, guys, we're like a minute and a half away from the end of our show. So we need to wrap it up. Astra says, hey. Hi, Astra. Beth says, y'all are so cute, you can finish each other's sentences and thoughts. Yes, it's true. We do that. But hey, Murky says, thank you for the answers. You're welcome. Violet says, bye. Bye, Violet. Bye, Violet. Yeah. So it's been fun as usual. We always like having new people and having people ask us questions because it certainly keeps us on our toes, trying to figure out how to answer all these things. Bob says, thank you, Siofra and Ian. I hope you all have a nice week. Me too. Alexandra says, thank you. You're welcome. And check out the playlists on the site. There's over 400 videos on this channel. And so hopefully there are answers to some of your questions. That's why I put them up there. Beth says, thank you for a wonderful time with great souls. All right. Blessed be, everybody. Asher says, dang it, missed it. See you next week, guys. Come earlier. Alexandra says, I will. Ian says, blessed be and thank you for your participation. Hope to see you all again. Julia says, thank you all so much for a wonderful time. Blessings to all that want them. Thank you especially, Siofra and Ian. As always, you are a treasure to me. Agus says, another good live as always. Wish you could stay another 5 hours. Oh, we would be under the table.
Yep.
SL, thank you. Okay, guys. Send me your questions to shifrasmagicalcove@gmail.com. Send me a friend's request on Facebook on Siofra Bradigan if you want to, and a note with it to let me know that you know me or have heard of me and I'm not just some random person you decided to hit up. All right, guys. Talk to you next week.